Okay, so we're going to be going over chapters 24 through the end of the Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires by Grady Hendrix, and a few trigger warnings. There is a little bit of like child abuse, is what I would consider what was happening with him and Patricia's daughter. Violence, vampire stuff. If that stuff turns you off, it's good to click out now. I wanted to go over your guys' questions. You guys had amazing questions this week. The first one, I wanted to ask you guys, of course, did you have any favorite quotes? We'll start with Aaron. If you had any or any favorite moments or any that, because this part was hard to read. If so, was there anything that like really hit you?
Um, I don't have any quotes. I mean, there were a lot of ones that I thought, oh, well, I should remember this, but I was listening to it and didn't, make note of it. I'm sure there were a lot though. My favorite part, honestly, this part was hard, like you said, it was very hard, but my favorite part was when Grace still showed up to help her friend. I was pretty happy about that.
I was too. Like she finally came through.
Hmm.
Yeah, I was impressed too. How about you, Gwen? Did you have any emotional moments, quotes, favorite characters, anything like that?
My favorite part was when she was tricking James Harris and he was thinking that she wasn't tricking him. And yet she was. So that was my favorite part.
I agree. I agree. She outsmarted him, which was very unusual for him. She bested him. So that was cool. Hi, Anana. Am I saying that right? Is that right, Jameson? Is it Anana? Okay. If you're here and you want to contribute, just let me know. If not, and you just want to check in and watch, that's great. Jameson, how about you? I know it bothered you as much as it bothered me. Like it evoked pure rage.
I think my favorite quote in the whole book was Carter, I want a divorce. But other than that, I did have a couple that like stuck with me. Um, I can't even remember who said it, but I wrote it down and I was like, now I can't. Think of us what you will, she thought. We've made our mistakes and probably scarred our children for life. And we froze sandwiches and forgot carpool and got divorced. But when the time came, we went the distance. And I
Oh,
was like,
no.
that is like, if that doesn't sum up being a mom like perfectly. And then the other one was what had been destroyed made what remained that much more precious, that much more solid, that much more important. And I was like, that is, those two quotes for me kind of just summed up being a mom
Yes.
really well. And that's probably the nicest thing that I have to say about this book.
So I have a love-hate relationship. It was not a difficult read. I wanted to keep reading. I was enthralled with it. I was just pissed off at everything from the very first chapter. I was angry at Patricia. She was on my nerves. And then everything just kept getting more evoked emotion. I'm not really sure why it hit me that hard, but it did. And I got really frustrated at the end. Emily, I mean, like angry, but it still was a good book to me. I don't know. Good evening, Emily. I see that we've got a tan now, not a sunburn. How are you doing? Did you have any favorite quotes or moments or frustrations? Anything you have any feels about?
Well, the whole book pissed me off. Um, uh, like I knew from the get-go that something was up with Carter. So the whole I want a divorce, just like plain and blunt, like Jameson said, was a good one for me. But I think what stuck out the most was how not really any quotes, but within the world building. So it's more of a writing perspective, how immersive it was. So, like, rather than telling you it was oppressively hot and humid, you're, it's just noticed that like the sweat is dripping through my blouse. So like this, how hot that is, how it feels like you're suffocating in that kind of heat, and kind of everything is written with that kind of like nuanced immersion. So it's what we consider show not tell, but it is actually really hard to consistently do in literally every aspect.
That might be
So the
why I
emotion,
couldn't put it down. The
yeah,
the
so
role.
it pulled you into that world and into each individual person's experience through their emotions, through the actual physical feeling, and through the entire atmosphere without telling you, hey, I'm scared. You can feel the character's fear instead. So
Yeah.
that stuck out to me.
Yeah, it was like palatable in a way,
Mhm.
I did, and I think that's why I liked it. But the storyline is just so frustrating for me. The dismissal of women, I don't know, it really hit me in the feels. How about you, Jessica? What are your thoughts? Like, how do you feel about all of it?
So I've got a few things to say.
Yeah.
First, I would love to introduce Grady Hendrix to the period. They end sentences. They usually segment things. I so Diane and I read this aloud to each other, and I was having trouble getting whole sentences out in one breath. Like, oh my gosh, nobody nobody talks like that. Nobody talks in like a complete like run on constant like run on sentence. But let's just put that aside. I do not love the trope of nobody believes the main character and the main character is right. I hate that. I hate not being believed personally.
Hmm.
Um didn't love I'm with Jameson with the whole like yes, I do think my favorite line was Carter, I want a divorce. And I just there's something about the way that the characters were portrayed. Like I was a teenager in the 90s and my my mom is a stiff kind of uppity woman. She would not have behaved or talked to anybody like that. I just felt like it was such an awkwardly unrealistic portrayal of how humans talk to one another. There was just like such stilted dialogue. I was very frustrated. I was very mad. And yet I didn't quit and I couldn't put it down. So
Yeah.
obviously there is some value there, but I was so angry and mad at all of the men. I was kind of annoyed with most of the women. I was really ticked at Grace.
I was
Grace
too.
really made me mad. I was not real happy at Slick, but then I felt bad about it. So
Yes. I
yeah.
don't think any of them toward like the very like all of them had indiscretions that were like inexcusable for me as
Like why
far as
would
like
you
how
do
they
that?
conducted their friendships. But I will tell you, my childhood best friend was born in a holler in West Virginia. It's called Kermit, and her family, um, in the 90s, she was born in 76, so she was a teen in the 90s. This was very on point to the way that they behaved. They were like a whole 10 years behind Columbus people. And so like for her it was really relatable. It's like going home. But for me, I'm like, okay, listen, I was at Latchkey. I didn't ever talk to my mom. She smoked cigarettes. She was really, really down to earth. Like, she was not like this. And with her friends, it was never this formality and fakeness. And that was unrelatable to me. But
Yeah.
there, that was being proper. That was mannerisms for them, like politeness, like that facade. And that just feels yucky.
It does. It does. And
Yeah.
like I get that. Like I grew up near Chicago and halfway through high school we moved to a very rural town in Indiana that was like 10 years behind. And so like I get that, but it just still just seemed
so awkward.
It was so
Like
fake. It's fake.
so fake. And like my mom sent me to a modeling and manners class. I got sent to etiquette
So
classes.
did I. So did
And
I.
I still like I'm just appalled at like the fakeness.
Yeah,
But
the fake. That bothered me too.
yes.
Yeah. Although they thought they were friends, I really don't know about that. How about
Yeah.
you, Karen? What were your thoughts and feelings and quotes and all that good stuff?
I agree with everybody else. I was going to say her Patricia telling Carter that she was going to get a divorce. That was my favorite part. Um, when I first started reading this, I honestly thought we were in an earlier time period. It kind of felt like you guys were talking about that everything seemed so far behind. Um, I agree with you, Billy. I grew up as a latchkey kid. There was no sitting down and eating dinners at night.
No.
Those kinds of things. My mom was a nurse. She was never there. So, you know, those those kinds of things.
I know her son complains about chicken again for dinner tonight. And I'm
Yeah.
like, you little brat, somebody's cooking you dinner. Like I had to find ramen. Like, you know what I mean? Like it was just so different than what like these are Gen Xers, so it's like it's just odd. Like
Yeah.
it was a different space, different time. Um,
But I also was thinking though that I've only read one other Grady Hendrix book, and that was How to Sell a Haunted House. And um, I think a lot of his portrayal of women and the relationships between the people was more done for shock value than for making fun of or like saying that women are that way. I think it was more for the shock value than anything.
so my favorite bookstore here in Columbus is Storyline and Upper Arlington, only because it's feminist owned, all feminine, like all women. They're like pro woman, right? Well, they had him there just a few months ago. And I'm like, that's odd because they're so like, I mean, aggressively women's rights and the way that he writes women. And they're like, he's not like that at all in real life. It's for shock. Like he found humor in that. I think it was funny. Really good job. But you're right. That's not his true character at all. But it's hard not to like
Yeah, it's hard
feel
to
like,
read. Yeah.
ew, you asshole. What's wrong with you? Um, how about you, Melody?
Okay, so he does write horror. I mean, it makes sense that like you don't like the characters, I think.
Yeah.
Um so and I grew up knowing a lot of people like that. A lot of families. I remember being at a friend's house one time and her complaining about whatever was being served for dinner. And her parents were like, "Oh, okay, well, I'll make you this." And I was like,
Uh-huh.
"What?"
Yeah, I know.
The characters in the book didn't really, I mean, other than the men, like me wanting to kill them, um, or feed them to James, whatever. Uh, they didn't bother me as much as they're bothering some of you. But as far as like favorite moments, I wasn't at last week's meeting, but at the beginning when Patricia is talking about like the movie titles for her life, and there was one about cooking a meal, 3 meals a day for the rest of your life until you die. I was like, oh yeah, I feel that.
Yes, that is
But
so
favorite,
relatable.
yes, absolutely. Favorite moments would be when Mrs. Green caught Gracious K on fire.
Hmm.
Loved that. And then when Carter was trying to explain to the children about their divorce and making her sound terrible and him sound wonderful, and the kids still picked her. I
Yeah,
was like, yeah,
yeah.
take that, you little fucker.
Yes, absolutely, 100%. And he was such a dick about the whole thing, and it was his fault. I mean, ugh.
Yeah.
He was my least favorite character, and Mrs. Green ended up being my absolute favorite. Like she was just so
It's
strong.
it's it says something that, Carter is your least favorite character in a book that features a vampire that preys on children.
Right, right. Oh, that is true. I just like him more than the villain. Ew.
Same, same.
Okay. Oh, that's a good point. How about you, Nikki? Like, I know this was your choice. I know you were really pulled in about this. What is your thought on like the author, the feeling, the way that you felt reading it?
I have a love-hate relationship with this book.
Yeah.
Like, so I'm not along the line as a lot of other people on here. This book was very relatable to me with the time period. In fact, my best friend back in Pennsylvania is still that traditional stay at home, doesn't work housewife. So it destroyed me when I read this, and I'm like, oh my God, that's her.
Oh,
But like, and listening to the way that Carter talks to her, like when Carter was saying the things like, you're a housewife, what else do you do all day? And when Carter was talking and arguing back and forth with Blue, and he made the comment, I'm not taking the blame for this, you're supposed to be teaching him how to control his emotions. Like, that was me and my friend growing up. Like, this is stuff that we've seen that we had to deal with. Now, yes, Grady does take it into maybe not necessarily a complete fakeness, but definitely dramatic
yes.
approach to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Very dramatic. But
Yeah,
I
but
think that's
I
what kept
really
me wanting to read.
and that is, and the way that, like Emily had said about the show and tell, the way that they went into the graphics with this, like the attic scene, I was gagging at work reading this book because of just the amount of detail that went into it, that you not only heard it, you felt it, you tasted it, you
Dude, my
smelled it.
ear was so disturbed. Like I was digging in my ear with the cockroach.
I was 20 feet in the air on a wave at work listening to this book and like gagging up in the air, digging at my ear, hoping nobody sees me up here struggling.
Oh, I would have never met. I'm like, I would have been so dead. I would have been like, like
It was
bloody
so
murder
bad.
cockroach in my ear, and she smushes it. I'm just like, holy Moses.
Yeah.
But the description, it's like you were there with her. Like,
Yes, and it drew me in so much. And then the characters like Grace, she reminded me of my grandmother. My grandmother was just
oh,
like her, all the way down to her china.
oh, yeah, yeah. Well,
But
I was
as
just
for
reminded.
the but
Yeah,
like
that reminded
as
me of my grandparent.
yeah, and then like as for the, which we'll get into this with the question I had asked of the vampire lore, that one I'm a little half and half about how she took a spin on it.
I have a question about that too that I wanted to ask you guys. Do you know? I guess when I think of vampires, I mostly think of True Blood, because I read the Sookie Stackhouse books before I saw the show and stuff, and I don't know why, but I couldn't help but like look at him as one of them. They have like an aura sometimes where they can like change emotions on people. And I just wonder if James Harris had that appeal to the men. Like if the
I
men
think he was like charming them in a way.
like a spell almost. I'm not sure, but I was wondering, like, is he are they really this stupid or does he
I
have
think it's a little bit of both,
yeah,
really.
oh yeah, yeah, absolutely. How about you, Udi? Now we know there was a very graphic, disgusting, horrible rat scene, and your rats are angel babies. So, what was it like for you to read the book?
I listened to it as well,
You listened to
and
it, yes.
you should have seen me driving. People probably thought I looked funny. What the hell is she doing? It definitely grossed me out in part. A lot of things don't gross me out, but roaches definitely is one of them. As someone that lived in an apartment that was infested with them,
Yes.
they are absolutely disgusting. The rat broke my heart because if they are starved enough, they will do that.
Oh, I know. I
They'll
know.
eat anything, and they'll literally eat you to death.
Yeah.
So that made me sad because the fact that he could control the animals to do that, and I felt bad for Mrs. Green and the grandma, like poor lady.
Well, like you said, people thought you were crazy. I was listening to the book too, And at the end, I think her name is Mary Ellen, and she freezes and she like pees her pants. And I'm like screaming back at her, bitch, move, do
Right.
something, get into gear. We're like in flight or fight here. Like it's time to go. What are you doing?
Yeah,
You
you
know,
got to
I
use everything you can because they will come and they'll just come after you.
it's just wild. But I think that the fact that we all feel passionately is kind of a good thing about a book. Same with like the Hunger Games books and how devastating it can be. That emotional pull and stuff, I think that's what makes the books impactful, even though they're disturbing. In my opinion, it's with you. Stephanie, what did you think? We usually are able to talk about books as we go, but we haven't had a chance with this one.
So I'm in agreement with most of everybody else. This book is a love-hate relationship. I really liked it though, because of the immersive experience, but I just hated the way he portrayed women and the men. And I was like, I knew Carter had to be cheating on her. I
Oh,
knew it. And he's a dick.
I knew that from the jump because she said,
Yeah.
I think in like the first few chapters, she's like, well, if this has him getting this promotion has this effect on me and he's going to notice me and touch me. And all I'm thinking, if he's not fucking you, he's fucking somebody else. You dumb
Yeah.
ding dong. Like, like, but yeah, like I knew he was a bastard from page 5, but I was mad at her for like not standing up for herself. Like I
Yeah.
think they say people who get under your skin have something in you that you hate about yourself, and I don't like her passivity. So the men in the book are just, oh my God, I don't know, but Cicely said something about owl turds. Animated owl turds is what the men in Quiddy. I was like dying laughing. I was like, that is the most perfect description. They were a bunch of pricks, like bad. And the gaslighting and the dismissal just
Yeah.
made me sick to my stomach.
Yeah. And
Um,
that scene with the suitcase, I was just grossed out. I'm just like, oh my Lord. I could not hide inside of
mm-mm.
just festering stuff and just I wouldn't be able to keep from throwing up probably.
That
I
is
don't
one thing you have to say for her. You always think of Patricia as so weak. Doing the things that she did took real strength. That took some balls to lay in there with the
mm,
bugs and the bones and the dust and the crap and like her persistence. That took strength, especially when everybody else was hiding and not
yeah.
confronting it and just complying. So I guess she has some redemption qualities. How about
But
you, Tiff? I know you gave this a 5 star and you enjoyed it.
I did, but that's because I enjoy people and like why they make decisions they make and why they react certain ways. I think that it triggers a lot of us because we want to believe that we wouldn't be that way, but unfortunately, there are a lot of people that would be that way. There are a lot of people that they won't step in and do something until it directly affects them. Other than that, they don't want to be involved. You know, how often do you see um, poor people or people who are less privileged that need help? And you see, you know, that's why we have the whole eat the rich trope, right?
Right.
Because you see all the rich people and they're living their own privileged world and they're not going to step in and do anything. So, this neighborhood that they live in that was essentially built on the patriarchy and racism, it's not a surprise at all that most of them don't care that Black children are being kidnapped and murdered or, you know, whatever's going on. And so I think that it was such a real portrayal of people because, again, like I said, we want to be like, oh, we would be the heroes and jump in and fix things. And I'm like, I just don't think a lot of people react that way.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I wish more people would react that way, but I just don't think that they do.
Yeah. Oh, no, I don't either. I think there's a lot of cognitive dissonance, especially at this point, and everybody's just so freaking exhausted with their own bubble of shit that they just can't see outside of themselves. Yeah, that's a very realistic point of view. Like in my head, I would hope, but I don't know. I really don't know, especially being in Patricia's situation with the mother-in-law and the kids and the bad husband and I don't know. Um, Anana, did you have any thoughts? Did you welcome? It is amazing to see you. And just wanted to know if you had anything you'd like to contribute. And I'm not sure if Cicely's here or not.
I am. My camera doesn't work. I don't know why.
Oh, that's okay. That's okay. I'm glad you're here. And Anana's back. So did you have any thoughts? And please correct me if I'm mispronouncing anything. And if your mute button is having trouble, we all have trouble with the mute button the first meeting. Still no unmuted. Let me unmute you. I think I can do that.
I think. How about
You
now?
got it.
Sweet. I actually didn't get a chance to read this book, and I was like, I'm kind of excited to see which one we pick for the upcoming book. So I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna log on, listen to like thoughts and feedback on the last book, and then be prepared for the upcoming read. So I'm
so
glad
happy.
to finally make it.
Yes, yes, this is wonderful. Cicely, so I know you have a rage inside of you to like drive down there and harm these men. What stood out to you the most? What quotes or moments that really hit you?
So, like for me, like most of us, right? I did not grow up with people like this. I grew up with like um people who worked in the trades and musicians and artists. So these are not my people. But when we lived on a military post, my husband was in the army for 10 years. This is very realistic to those people. Very, very, very familiar. And about halfway through our time there, he went to officer school and became an officer. And we lived in officers' housing. And friends, these are those bitches. 100%. Absolutely realistic. I know these women, and that is how they act.
Oh,
And they will just watch you crash and burn and then get together and make vague references to your demise over coffee
that's
and
just what
diet
really
cokes.
bothers me.
Yeah, no, they are like that. So the women, I was like, oh, I know these gals. And those are the good ones. Those are the good officers' wives in this book. The good ones. There are
Yeah,
now there's some great ones. There's some I am still friends with that are freaking amazing, wonderful people. But there's a lot like that. So that part, I was like, I know these guys. I know them.
that is a
The,
fascinating perspective, especially from you, because you're
yeah.
like me, you're like an inner city type of person, and both of us have had positions in our careers,
Oh.
and Tiff too, where we're working with impoverished people, and I think we all like have a soft spot for that. And like I would have been down there in 6 Mile, like giving out bags and like protection and like trying to like we would be rallying for these people, you know what I mean? It was just
Yeah, but they
so
don't.
hard.
They because so much of what they see as their value hinges on how they appear. And I think that's how the bad guy is able to get the men all
Yep.
looped in. You're going to be rich. You're going to be awesome. Everybody's going to think you're great. You're going to have bigger boners and better polo shirts and whatever, right?
Right.
So,
Right.
and then but I was disappointed that the men didn't die because I hated them all so much. They were just pieces of shit.
Why
I
couldn't
know
one of
men
them
like
just have
that,
a brutal
but I hate
ending?
them. I just wanted Carter to get eaten, not even by the bad guy. He doesn't even deserve that because it's pleasurable. I want him to get eaten by like a three-legged alligator. So it has
Yeah.
to chase him slowly or just something incredibly horrible. Horrible. He goes in the
Horrible.
soup. Fuck that guy.
Also, though,
But and the way they wash over the child abuse and this woman's getting the crap beaten out of her and they're just like, I hate
mhm.
it. I hate it, but I've
Oh
seen
yeah.
it.
Oh
And I
yeah.
have gotten up to my armpits in that on post, and I will tell you it does not go well.
Oh.
Um So I can hang with those people to a point, but I always get myself in trouble, like always, because I cannot keep my mouth shut.
Me either.
So I would not have been able to hang with these gals. They would not have wanted me in their book club. But I actually liked the book. All of that aside, I thought it was a decent story. It took me a while to get invested in it because at the beginning I was just like, I give a shit about any of these people. Like I
Yeah,
know them already. I don't care.
I wanted to
Um,
read more, even though I didn't like what I was reading. So there has to be some appeal.
and the the vampire, if you ever look it up, this is like a one of my hometown demons, right? Mark Driscoll of Mars Hill Church. I'm
Oh,
like, he reminds me of him.
ooh, we're going to dive into this. We're going to dive into that. Yeah, we're definitely going to discuss this. So,
Yeah.
getting on, that'll be a great segue into the questions. And I really, really wanted to start when we have a full room. And Tiffin made a suggestion a while ago that is important. If we're over 10 and you feel like, hey, they said what I was feeling, you can just say, hey, I agree with so and so, and I'm what needs to be said can be said. You don't have to reiterate if you don't want to, or if you have more to add, please do. Okay, so we're gonna go right into, did you like Grady Hendrix spin on vampire lore, or do you prefer the traditional lore? Or like, was it believable to you? And we'll start with Tiff.
I liked the spin, but I don't think that I bought that he was a vampire. He's definitely something else.
Like a
Um,
shapeshifter?
yeah, like some kind of shapeshifter, something immortal.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I just didn't think of him as a vampire. I can see why through the novel, like I can see why Patricia's like, oh man, this makes sense that he's a vampire. Like I get how she came to that conclusion. But I think as a reader, we like being able to see all of it. I'm like, nah, I don't feel that he was a vampire.
No, there's some etiology that's different. Like, I don't think I've ever read or heard about that thing that came out and the fact that his blood was getting cleansed. Like, it was almost like he was transferring the blood back through. That's not something I have ever really heard about. How about you, Stephanie? What was your, and I mean, you can also let me know, do you have like a working knowledge of vampire lore? Like, that's also important.
I've read books on vampires, and I didn't buy at all that he's a vampire. He's like, I agree with everybody else. He's something else. I don't know what he is, but that's just strange. I mean, the spin on it was pretty cool, but
Mhm.
it's not believable at all.
Did you wonder why they didn't burn him?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah,
Yep.
yeah. I was wondering that too. Um, because we can actually add this on. I believe somebody asked, do you think he can? I wondered this too. Oh, it was Gwen. Do you think he can ever be reassembled? The fact that he's still got things moving in the bags and shit, like, yeah, he can be. Um, why did they burn him? Why didn't they destroy? Like, I don't know. Udi, how about you? Did you have any thoughts on like the vampire vibe?
That was my wondering too, because like all the shit that they did, I don't. I feel like it would kill a vampire. So like, what is he? And the fact that he's still moving around, and he definitely like he was healing when they stabbed him in the spine, and it did immobilize him for a little bit, but he was able to heal through that.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, I do see vampires being able to heal, but it also took them a lot longer
Mm-hmm. Well, then
too.
they feed to heal
Yeah, they had to
too,
feed, and he didn't feed. He was able to just heal, and
regenerate.
then they were able to chop him up and stuff like that too. So
They just went about the whole thing like the most complicated way they possibly freaking could. Like,
hmm
have a
yeah,
bonfire in the backyard. You're in the country. Like, drag his shit out and burn him. What are we doing in the bathtub?
yeah, and then
No.
usually a wooden stake through the heart would kill a vampire.
Something.
So I don't know if I buy that. And the fact that he said he was one of a kind.
Yeah, and he did. He kept saying that over and over again. But was that just him being a narcissist? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
right. Trying to get into her head because he was doing a lot of gaslighting to her. So who knows?
the moving of his
And then they said that just
that
like
was
one
weird.
little thing just comes out. Like,
Yeah.
no, vampire.
I got way too many pictures in my head of it. It is not a
But
given.
the fact that he can control animals too, that is kind of history of vampirism. Like, turn into a bat.
Right.
So I don't know. There's bits and pieces from vampire lore, and there's bits and pieces of new stuff too. So
Yeah,
I
but
don't
it's
really know.
cool that it was unique and not cookie cutter. How about you, Nikki? What was your feeling? Like, did you believe it? Was it plausible that this was what he was, or did you think there's something definitely different here?
This is like some next level horror shit from like the movies that I dig into that should never ever be watched by human beings. Like this was so like I don't even know. I'm not getting vampire feels from it. I'm getting like vampire slash alien slash zombie feels in a way.
Yeah, there's a zombie thing to it. There's some type of, and like, because zombies have viruses, and the way he was like cleansing his blood. Yeah, I can get down with that.
So I'm not entirely sure if he was actually cleansing his blood. I feel like that might have been an excuse just so he could keep feeding on Corey. But like, I don't know. Like this felt like some, like far out lore. I've never heard anything like it.
Me either. Melody, how about you? Were you like, oh yeah, he's definitely a vampire?
Yeah, just real quick. It's been a while since I read it, but I feel like it kind of reminds me of the vampires from The Strain. Did you ever read that? Guillermo del Toro?
Yeah.
They had, I think, like a proboscis type thing that protruded
You're
and
right.
could control animals. Like I said, it's been a long time since I've read it. But I remember the vampires being different. And I've read so many vampire books that like there's all kinds of different stuff.
Oh, there is.
Some of them, yeah, you can cut a head off. Some of them, the sunlight will kill them. In Buffy, Spike wore a ring and couldn't be killed.
Right.
So like there's always something.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, I bought it as a vampire, and I agree with Nikki. I don't think he was cleansing his blood. I think he was just using that as an excuse.
Yeah. And they say vampire bites are euphoric, and he have but it's like he left them addicted. And when they went through withdrawal, they got severely depressed. It's fascinating. How about you, Karen? Were you on board with the vampire narrative?
For the most part, yes. Very different from some other vampire books that I've read. I have to kind of be in his author's note, he says they're vampires. So, but nowadays they have so many different tropes about vampires.
They do.
Even to the point they have romantic comedies with vampires. Vampires with werewolves. It's just kind of like
a hybrid.
Yeah.
Do you think he can be reassembled, or like, do you think like it's possible to merge him back together? Since
I think that anything could happen. I mean,
yeah, I'm just wondering if could there be a sequel? Like he's back. You know what I mean? Jessica, what did you and Diane think? Were you guys like, okay, yeah, he's a vampire, he's a bad freaking dude, or were you both like, okay, this is something different?
So I mean, there are so many different versions of vampires. I mean, like every culture and subculture has got their own take. So I bought that he was a vampire. But on the other side of that, I raise bugs. So I just kept envisioning like the proboscis that was coming out of his mouth, very much like a parasitoid wasp. And I definitely did not believe that he was cleansing his blood. I was like, you'll be lucky that there's not eggs being deposited. I mean, that could be an ovipositor, that could be God knows what that is. But I was definitely getting like insectoid vibes
Well,
with
yeah,
that
and what do you
thing
think
coming
about
out of him.
with that thought process? What he leaves behind when he is intimate? What the hell is that? That black ooze?
I mean,
Is that the way he changed people?
I possibly, maybe. I mean, so a lot of like the goo that is inside insects is not the same color that you would expect it to be. Um, so that was just kind of my take is like, meh, okay, that's just what that particular bug's
Yeah.
boy juices look like, I guess.
Boy, you
I
just
try not to think about that too much. I have to say, like, the roach scene in the attic really bugged me because I was like, that's, I mean, roaches would kind of act like that, but kind of wouldn't. Like, I know my roaches. Um, but I was definitely like, this is some sort of like parasitic insect horrid thing. And with that being said, I I could not understand why they did not take a more permanent measure, like reduce him to ash. Why
yeah.
did you just chop him up into First of all, why did you have Mrs. Green be the one to chop him up and then chop him up and stuff him in a freaking vault? This is how we decided to handle this?
That was the most
No.
backwards way of taking this man out. I don't understand what the hell happened there. And the fact that she had to do it made me feel like, you know why? Because she was the only one physically strong enough to do it because she had worked her ass off her whole life. Nobody
Probably.
else got their hands dirty. You know?
Probably.
I just want to say caveat to anybody who doesn't know. Yes, Jessica owns roaches, like Udi owns rats. This is the witchiest, gayest, darkest group of people, and the fact that we call ourselves cozy is just so awesome.
It's not just roaches anymore. I have darkling beetles now too. So
Listen, I am open to it. I just, yeah, you're gonna have to start. And you got your lizard that goes on trips with you in the car.
and my
Is he a
frog.
bearded dragon?
Yeah, he's a bearded dragon.
He's a bearded dragon. Yeah, like when you guys nominated the books, I thought for sure we were gonna go with like light, romancy, funny. No, I'm like, these are the darkest people I've ever met. Why do I collect them? I love it. I love it. So Jameson, now you are a huge horror fan and you've extensively read so much about this sort of thing. So for you, what was it like?
I assumed that he was a vampire, mostly because the author told us he was a vampire. So I'm like, I'm okay, well, I'm going to go with that. Um, I also, basically, what I believe, Salem's Lot is one of my favorite books ever.
Uh-huh. Mine too.
What I kind of think about James is that he's like those vampires. Like they weren't good people to begin with. So they're not good vampires. They're shitty, horrible people. And I hated him. Like I know like oh the women and the men sucked and like that's why we hate that book. But if I don't say this, it's going to kill me, so I'm just going to say it and I'm
Yes,
sorry
please.
if I piss anybody off. He was not abusing children, he was sexually assaulting children.
Yes. That's why I said the
And I
trigger warning at the
hate
beginning.
he sexually assaulted Slick for no reason. Like this wasn't even, and I'm not mad at the character, I'm mad at the author here.
Yeah.
I hate when you use a sexual assault as a plot point, but this wasn't even a plot point. There was no point. He
Yep.
said, wait until you see what happens, but nothing happened because she made them cremate her. There was no wait and see what happened. There was no point to this. Like, if you want to make a vampire terrifying, he never has to sexually assault a woman, ever. And I was it was so hard. The only reason I finished it is so that I could talk about it. Like, I have a rule that people get 3 chances for me to read their books. I will never read another one of his books. I'm that upset about it. Like, I just cannot. And it's not about the trigger warning. Like, I use trigger warnings to see what I'm going to read next.
Yeah.
It's not about that. It is about, like, if the only way you know how to write about women to make it scary is the way that you write about women, and that's not how you truly feel, you need to be a better writer. And I'm just not sure in what world we walk into a room, find our teenage daughter naked in bed with a grown-ass man, and we don't tell anyone.
They sent her to an institution.
I was so I just assumed that he was a shitty person. Like, he got all these men involved in, like, he knew, he's like, they're men, they'll do what men do, and then I have them in my pocket. Like, he manipulated the entire situation. And I feel like if you were going to use a sexual assault to create terror and to create a plot point, that there should be a point. And there was absolutely no point to this at all. There was no reason for that to happen. Just like there was no reason for him to, like, you wrote this vampire this way on purpose. There was no reason for him to have to be naked with underage women, underage girls, to do this. He could have bitten them like a vampire, and it had the same effect. So I'm not mad at the character. I really hate this author.
Why the groin? Why near private parts? Why? Like, it could have been anywhere. Most of the time it's the neck. So when we started, that was not a trigger warning for this book. The child abuse was not. And so it was so disturbing to me. That scene in particular, when she goes in and she finds Corey and what she saw in the van with Destiny, I was just like, is this an act of sex? Like, what is this? Because why are we all up in the nether region? Like, that's not necessary for vampire feeding.
Well, and then the writer, when he like doubles down on how pleasurable this underage girl thought this experience was. Like, well, yeah, because you've been grooming her since you met her.
Yeah.
Like, I'm so angry.
That poor child is fucked for life. I'm sorry, but she is going to be some type of addict. I mean, the mental institution is not going to help. Like, and then the mom, it's just like, we share this. And I'm like,
yeah, that was especially gross. Yeah.
The whole thing really got to me too. And I felt that, and I know other people picked up on it too, but like the violation of children, if not for significance, it's not necessary. I didn't feel like I didn't ever want to read him again, but I did ask the women at Storyline, what the hell is wrong with him? Why did you bring him here after he wrote women like this in your feminist bookstore? And they explained to me that he wasn't like that, but still it hit me bad. You're not alone. Emily, how about you as a writer? Would you have used, popping off on that, would you have used that in your storyline in that way?
So as I said in the chat, I often do use very difficult tropes myself. So I have used SA and I have used DV quite a bit in my writing. A lot of that is just because it is cathartic for me with my own experiences to put them on paper. I feel like, and like I said also in the chat, specifically with sexual assault and domestic violence, it really has to serve a purpose. So you have to, it's a very, very difficult thing to put in, especially if you've experienced it yourself, as many of us have, myself included. Putting it on paper allows me to process things that I'm still processing, 20, 25, 30 years later. But at the same time, it's very delicate. It has to serve a purpose, like Jameson said. It can't just be I need some sort of inciting incident here. I know most women have had sexual assault. Let's stick that in there. It has to serve a purpose. It has to tell us something about the character, whether they are too trusting, and so that need to be independent and that need to trust people and to feel included and to feel wanted or whatever it is, kind of that motivating factor. Then it's warranted in those cases. If that person is not being cognizant of their surroundings and being way too trusting, and we need to see that almost infantile, and we need to see that in that character, then okay. If we need to see that the reason why this character tends to be wounded and tends to have that very sorry, it's difficult, has that very abused mindset in how they respond to certain situations, then we're going to need to see a little bit of that treatment. Whether or not we need to go full blown on the graphic nature of domestic violence or sexual assault isn't necessarily needed.
Right.
For most of us, you can imply, you can lead up to, you can, those kinds of things. But a lot of the time, it's okay as long as it's not too terribly graphic for most of us to kind of be like, okay, I get the idea that this happens.
Mm-hmm.
My problem with the story is that it happens to children,
Mm-hmm.
and that it is just kind of like not talked about. But at the same time, like I pointed out in the chat, it could also be the author's way of saying these things are very, very serious and they are evil. And so I've kind of put it into this, like, quote, vampire to kind of soften it a little bit, but it doesn't really soften it for those of us who have experienced it, or who have family who have experienced, who have been really super close to, or friends who have.
Mm-hmm.
And it's an interesting choice, but I think that um, it's possible that the author's objective was to point out how it is swept under the rug and how it is handled in so many communities and families, that it's this thing that we just need to not talk about it. We need to just pretend that it's not there. And so we'll try to get her help, but we don't know how to do that. So instead of holding the person accountable, because we don't want people to know that this happened in our family and happened to our people, we're just going to go send her away and get her therapy.
She didn't
And
even address it with her child,
no,
what had happened.
no. And I understand as a mother to say, I to a teenage daughter, like, I don't want to make it more traumatic, but at the same time, you're not putting yourself in your child's shoes to say, while traumatic, maybe there needs to be a conversation to say this isn't your fault. Because the whole entire book, he is grooming every single person for a purpose for himself.
Yes, he did.
Which is narcissistic, as many of us have experienced. I think all of us at some point in our life have experienced a narcissist in some way, shape, or form, romantically, parentally, or in a friendship. Unfortunately, I've had friends and my ex-husband. And so I think that we see it, right? A reader sees it. A reader sees all of these things and says, this is narcissistic manipulation. This is a power trip. This is a power play. This is, all of these things. But if you're looking at it from the perspective of the characters in the book, they're just trying to survive it. And who wants to turn around and go, this person that I've put my faith and my trust in, because they've blinded me to
Yeah.
everything, how am I going to turn around and be like, hey, I was wrong? Carter is shit, we know that.
Yeah.
Grace's husband beats her.
Flick's husband like abandoned her and was like, you have HIV and you shamed the family.
See, I think, and I said it in the chat, I think that as far as that goes, I think he is genuinely remorseful for anything that he had done. I think he was like coerced into that, and he genuinely loves her. But James has made him feel like, oh, she's got this disease and that's your fault, and I'm going to tell everybody. And so he's also like being manipulated in that way. So he genuinely is upset. But if he says something,
right,
then he's at fault.
Yeah.
I think this entire thing is Carter's fault. The whole thing is Carter's fault. 100%. It is not Patricia's fault. It's
No,
Carter's fault.
he put his family in such a vulnerable position and under so much extreme stress and then just walked out. Gwen, for you, it was your question. Do you think that he could be reassembled? Do you believe he was a vampire? And then did you have any feelings about like the young girls?
I do think that they left him in pieces in that grave, because I do think they're looking at making a second book of him coming back. I think it is left open that way, especially because the last part where she walks over at the very end of the book and she can hear the movement. So I think that's showing that he's still alive in there. Um, as as a person who struggled with similar issues as a teenager and was institutionalized, I was very bothered by Patricia's actions to institutionalize her daughter, and that was how she dealt with it. However, I did have some redeeming factors that when she was away from Carter, there was a medical procedure that could help her daughter, and there was only enough money for one of them to get it. So she gave it to her daughter to help her get better. There was some redeeming factors in that. I mean, people I understand they don't really talk about stuff like that, and there's not a lot of processing. But there was some redeeming factor in Patricia with that with me. Um, but yeah, I really think that was set up for another book. With him still moving in the grave at the very end of the book when she went over to check it.
Yeah, I think so too. I won't be reading that, but I do think that that is a possibility. Cicely, how about you? Do you have any different feelings about? Do you think there's be a second one? Do you think he was a real vampire? Did the sexual stuff with the kids hit you?
So I have read a ton of vampire books. Not as much horror, but vampires and werewolves, I'm totally down to clown. So sure, he can be a vampire. There's a million different types of vampire stories, so I can go with that. But I think I agree with Gwen. I think there's set up to be another book, both because they did not burn him, although I think that not following through all of the way and just getting it to where it looks good is on brand for these chicks. And I think they were exhausted and terrified, and they just did their thing, and then they were like, let's forget about it. Let's forget about it.
Yeah.
But also James at one point says, like, I can't remember the exact quote, but it's basically like, just wait until these other guys show up. So to me, that's a setup for another book. He implied that he was making another one of himself through Swift. So, or not Swift, goddammit, Slick. So
Yeah.
again, there's some setup there. I thought if you're, and I think that him saying he's cleaning his blood is just him being full of it.
I think my
But
medical
like,
professional thing, I was just like, okay, maybe it's like, dialysis. It's like,
you can get
I want it.
dialysis though.
I'm
Like,
such an idiot, you guys. I'd be the
no,
first one to
you're
go.
not. But here's the thing, right? There is a big vein right there on the inside of your thigh up by your groin. And there's one in your neck, and there's one on the inside of your arm, and there's lots of them. So to make it this kind of like weird sexual thing, I felt like was unnecessary.
So unnecessary, so
Um,
disturbing.
and I don't think that the rape served any purpose. I
Right.
think that it was just thrown in there to be like, look, he's a super bad guy. Overall, I did enjoy the book, but there was a lot of things like that where it's like, this is this pointless thing that's just thrown in here. Like with the bugs in the attic, there's no
Mm-hmm.
bugs anywhere else in the house. So why is there an ass ton of insects of every kind creeping and crawling around in the attic, and the rest of the house is clean and described as like sterile? How
Yeah.
is that? How is that?
I don't know. I was thinking maybe they were living off of the corpse but then I'm like, those suckers travel when the food runs out.
No,
Like,
listen, we lived in the South. If you have a roach in your house, it is in your whole house. And
mm,
if it is laying eggs, you have, listen, you can't get rid of them damn things. They're everywhere. So to me, there was a lot of things throughout the story that both set it up for another book and where I think the author has some gifts, but I also think he's lazy.
little bit. I think he was the descriptions were great, but I now talking to you guys, I'm like, he could have done it a little bit better.
No, I've been a writer my whole life, and my editor died. But I'm telling you what, if I wrote something like that, she would have been calling me like, and she has called me and said this before. You're better than that.
Yeah.
Get your shit
Yeah.
together. Like, I would have
Interesting.
never gotten away with that many loose ends in anything I've written.
Yeah.
Um,
I,
and he
I
just
can
has them
see that
everywhere.
now, hearing from you guys who are writers like Jameson and Emily and you and stuff. It's different to hear it from your point of view, and it makes me consider it in a different way. I just was so enthralled with the detail. I literally felt like I was there. I think that's why I enjoyed the book.
Yeah, I still enjoyed it, but like I also enjoy Speedway coffee.
Mm-hmm.
You
Mm-hmm.
know, like I enjoy Domino's pizza. Like I
Right,
like really
right.
great literature too, but I like shitty stuff as well. So to me, this is like a really solid Speedway cup of coffee of a book.
Oh my God, you're the funniest person I think I've ever met. Oh my God, every single time. Erin, how about you? So we know you're Mama Bear, so I know those parts hit you hard. Um, but also, did you find his vampirism plausible? Do you think he could come back?
Um, I don't think that he was a vampire. I think he was something, but I don't think he was a vampire. I don't know. Obviously, don't know what he was because he's made up. It's like
Mm-hmm.
not. They're all not. You know what I mean? Anyway, I do think that he will come back. Absolutely. They didn't finish it. They didn't. They did a lot of work, but they just didn't put the nail in the coffin, I guess, because he's still
Right.
there and he's still moving around. Someone's gonna hear him eventually. I mean, right? I've never like dealt with a funeral. I've never even like I've been to a lot of cemeteries, but never one like I like to go into one of those buildings. I feel like they're public, right? Like you can
Right.
just walk into them. So someone could walk in at some point and hear it and be like, what the heck is this? I don't
Yeah.
know. Um, but yeah, I did also have a lot of issues with the way the writer made him prey on children. I also thought the part about where like Patricia was trying to like win him over at the end,
Yeah.
I felt like it was kind of disgusting the things that she said. I don't know. I just felt like the author didn't need to make her say things like do to me what you did to my daughter, basically saying like the way that she said it was like so like trying to be seductive about it, and I thought that was just disgusting. I just couldn't believe that. Um and
Neither.
it didn't affect me this much the first time I read it, but now like listening to you guys speak, I do think that it's just gross. I thought the first time I read it, I just assumed that the writer put the part in there just to show us how vampires are made, how their vampires are made. Because he says something like the Wide Smiles Club will come for you or something, meaning like he's not the only one. So
Right.
there are others out there,
Yeah.
and he is turning Slick into one. But like now I understand like that really wasn't necessary because he could have done it a different way, I'm sure. I mean, maybe. If that's how they breed, like they breed like humans, but then they actually don't like birth a child, they are reborn themselves.
Right. Like
Um,
I have a thing for I think a lot of people who are attracted to that whole like bad, naughty type of person have a thing for vampires. Like after the scene with Slick, I was just like, oh my God. Is
mhm,
sex with a vampire gonna leave black ooze places? Like I was so
yeah.
disgusted and disturbed by the whole thing. Like It really is a totally different take than what I ever have read before. But again, things like that, that disturbance, I think leaves you with such an impression, you know? Isn't that what it's supposed to do? Make you think and like pull at you in places? I think that's what makes the book good,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
Um, so what I wanted to do was announce, so Tiff's book got chosen, so we are going with Bury Our Bones in the Midnight Soil by V.E. Schwab. Cicely recommended a podcast. Um, I did a little bit of research on my own, and I found out this does have some LGBT sprinkled through it and vampires. So this should be really, really fascinating. On Goodreads and on my, 'cause I try not to use Goodreads anymore. On my other app, this is like a 4.8 5-star book. It's written in a prose, so it's not by chapters. I cannot find anybody who says this is in chapters. So we're going to read to page, because split it up by the pages of the book. We're going to read to page 178, and I'll post that in the club. And then I wanted to leave you guys with my favorite quotes from the book were the only like real positive thing that I pulled from it. But the, and it's by James. But it says, a reader lives many lives. James Harris said, the person who doesn't read lives but one. But if you're happy just doing what you're told and reading what other people think you should read, then don't let me stop you. I just find it sad. The fact that we vote and we all nominate different books, and it's just like, I don't know if I can read this. I don't know if it's my genre. I don't know if I'm going to vibe it. And we still do it. Like we're broadening our horizons or opening our minds or making ourselves better people. I think that's really freaking cool. And then we bond over it. Because this would have not been something that I would have picked up on my own, right? Like that was the thing that Aaron and I talked about most. We did not want to put any stipulations under what we read. You get to pick, let's go with it. And we're on board. So I'm really excited for this book. I can't wait. So by next week, we'll read page 178. And then if anybody needs to talk, I'm a child sexual abuse survivor and gone through lots of therapy. So if it hits you there, right, I mean, we'll talk about it. We can hash it out. I love you guys. I will see you all next week. Happy reading. Bye-bye.
Bye.